Vanakkam and welcome to another installation of that Drink and Smoke series. And in this video, we were going into the Valmiki Ramayana and the Ananda Ramayana. And in those two Ramayans, if many of those would have watched the Baladan series, would have seen I mentioned where all along with the aspect of Balidan being done, right, as the Ashmaveda, right, as the Ashmaveda ritual, which is the horse sacrifice, we would see also, or we would have heard also, where I mentioned that you had, Soma Veda, the Soma Yajna, or Soma Mera, that is the aspect of offering, fermented wine or fermented juice, which is also done, which would have been done when, would have done in the aspect of a Rajasura Yajna. This is the consecration of a new king. So that aspect of when King Dashrath was made king after his father, they would have done that ritual. And when Ram, we would have seen where in Ram also, when he was consecrated, you would have seen that aspect being done. There's also lower down in the Andhra mine when Sri Ram is talking to Lord Shiva, he mentions the Soma Mera, right? Which is what we go back that aspect of offering for mentions. He compares doing that particular ritual compared, can earn the same merits as going to bathe to pilgrimage and bathing to where the different lingams was consecrated also, right? So we have that aspect. So we see there in the Anand Ramayana, and it will more or less show within in the Valmiki Ramayana also, where Soma Yagna or Soma Mera, which is a yajna, which is the offering of um, fermented juice, right? Fermented juice, which is a wine. Also to incorporate into this video, we can go to the Mahabharata, and we go to the Mahabharata, which is book 14, where when I did the balance series, we saw where Yudhishthira was advised to perform the Ashma Veda and so forth to revitalize the land because the land was barren, it was covered because the amount of killing and so forth. But also you see within that aspect there, right? You see within the conversation that was done and where if you would have looked at the video, it is also mentioned and advised to him to do the Soma Meda, to offer the drink, to offer to all the warriors that for has done for him to the end, to all those who was there with him, for all those who was there, to the different warriors that stood with him and in victory, to proclaim victory and so forth. So we see where in the Ananda Ramayana, we see within the Valmiki Ramayana, we see within the Mahabharata, it is mentioned. So we see Soma Mera or Soma Yajna being mentioned to be performed. We see where it is performed with different yajnas also when it comes to the consecration of kings. We see it being done after the winning of a battle where the king Rejomolas proclaims victory and so forth. Right, so we see that aspect where Yudhishthira is advised to do that along with the Ashmaveda, right, the Ashmaveda sacrifice in the Mahabharata. So we see that aspect. So it is there, is recorded, right? If you would go back to my Baladan series where I put Baladan via the Mahabharata, and you see I did a video Baladan via the Ananda Ramayana, you would see where I have mentioned the sacrifices, and also in those discourses I would have mentioned the different yajnas, and Soma Veda was one, or Soma Yajna was one of the different aspects along with the Ashma Veda. So you had different yajnas being mentioned. Soma Veda is, as I said as in the first video, when we did Rig Veda, is that aspect of offering fermented juice or wine in this aspect to different devatas, right? So we see there in the Puranas, we see not in the Puranas, we see in the Ramayans, we see in the Mahabharata, it is mentioned. Is these things still done till today? No, it is not done because there would have been a transition. many different sages. So we can mention like the Buddha or people aspects of Adi Shankara. They would have made amends to these things to go more sattvic of nature because of Lord Vishnu, Lord Hari, and this aspect is so much is more sattvic. His worship is more sattvic in nature. So you would have seen them going that particular. We see where they had that transition of doing the Balagan within, which was part of also Vedic rituals. We saw the changing of that. We saw in different Purans they mentioned, but we saw within the Vaishnava worship it was changed. It was, you know, it was not, I won't say abolished, but it was amended and omitted for their better good or for the betterment of their prescribed worship. So we see that being done. This is no difference with Sumo Veda offering of, you know, offering fermented juice or fermented wine. This is no difference. We see that aspect more or less being done now. We saw that being changed. So does this practice is practiced by Vaishnavas? No. Is that practice more or less done by other sectors? In some way, yes. It might not be in the form that you will know it, in the form of that it was prescribed. It may be in a different particular form. And we will go down and see if we will see where that aspect of worship is still more or less prominently in different sectors in a different particular way or prescribed in a different aspect. So we will see that also. Alright, we will look into that also. So in this video, we see where in the Valmiki Ramayana, in the Ananda Ramayana, and in the Mahabharata, it mentions that Soma Mera or Soma Yajna, right, which was also associated with the Rajasuya, Rajasuya Yajna. So there it is, that was done also. Right, we see where that was done in different aspects. So right, so it was done in the Ramayana, the Anand Ramayana Vagnant, where you will see it done with the Rajasuya. This is the consecration of um, new kings. You would have seen, and it would have been mentioned in the Mahabharata. It would have been an advice to Yudhishthira after that war, after that great battle where the Pandavas won. So Yudhishthira, the elder brother of the Pandavas, would advise to do the offerings, yeah, to do the offerings and done the different pujas, whatever, to aid to bring about, you know, bounty back to the land because it was bled, it was dried, it was covered in so much negativity. And this was a plus, it was advice they give because it was in victory to offer those who stood with him in victory and so forth. So this is where it was advised and so forth. Again, stating, does these items are still practiced under those of Vaishnava worship? No, it is not. Right? Are there different sectors that does these type of worship similar to this? Yes. And we will go down, that will more or less be under Devi worship or Madrasi worship, and we will go into that later down. So we see in the Anand Ramayana, the Valmiki, and the Mahabharata, where Soma is also mentioned again, as in the whole the yajna is mentioned, and the performance of it, and the advice of performing it, and done in acquaintance with other yajnas also for different situations. Right? So please join me in the other in the please join me in the next video where we will go into, we will visit more or less where we shall go. We will go into the Brahmana Purana. We will venture into Brahmana Purana, where there's a discourse between Indradev and Brahaspati. So please join me for that, where there's a lot of things that are mentioned in this one, and it is very, it is very, how should I say, revealing in certain ways to certain items, right? And in those things, I will point out what it is that one should keep in mind, because why, they are connected. What is going to be said in this next video, where we are going into the Brahmana Purana, right? I want you to keep note of what is being said, because why, there are certain elements down in other videos that are connected to each other. So please join me for that. Jai Sitaram.